Every media has its flaws. A video game, a book, a TV show, anything you can imagine, it's likely bound to have some flaws. Now, whether it's minor or major, well, that's up to the media that you're looking at. Now, you may be asking, why did I say that? Well, the reason why I said that is because I am going to criticize modern FNaF. Now, I know this sounds a little bit iffy, but hear me out. Now, this isn't me saying I hate the modern FNaF era. In fact, I like it just as much as I like the classic era. I like them both equally, but it does have its flaws. Okay, I'm just gonna be blunt here. The actual reason why I made this video is because, well, for a couple of years now, I want to say ever since Security Breach, well, when the complaints got really big, it's just been the same criticism over and over again. Too sci-fi. Oh, it's all so complicated. Oh, the books. Oh, fast. It's just the same thing over and over again. It gets tiring hearing the same complaint and not a fresh one. So you know what? I'll do it myself. I'll give out actual criticism. Like, there's so much more going on with modern FNaF than just, oh, too sci-fi. Oh, the books, the horrors. Oh, the mimic, or whatever. So, I'm gonna get into the actual problems with modern FNaF. Let me do a disclaimer before I move on, just so y'all can see. I do not hate the FNaF franchise. I do not hate modern FNaF. I do not think classic FNaF era is supreme compared to modern FNaF. I love them both equally, but they're both equally flawed. Now, I think we gotta talk about the books, because I actually do have a few complaints about the books. There is a lot of FNaF books, and that could be really hard for some people to get caught on, and I don't blame them, to be honest. Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex are both very crucial when it comes to understanding the story of FNaF. Fazbear Frights takes place in kind of like in the middle of UCN, and then Tales from the Pizzaplex, well, it's literally obvious, takes place in the Pizzaplex era. But there's a problem with these books. And no, it's not Fazgoo or Sea Bonnies that are the problem. They are both their own stories, and they do not affect the main timeline of FNaF in the slightest. If it did, then I probably would have seen Sea Bonnies in Security Breach and Gregory being confirmed as a Fazgoo monster. But guess what? They don't matter because Scott made them for the fuck of it. Okay, enough of my ramblings, and let's talk about the problems when it comes to Fazbear Frights on the lore of FNaF. It is worth noting when it comes to Fazbear Frights, Scott made a Steam post about this new book series, which was 20%, and he said this: the series will launch with 5 books, each containing 3 different short stories with unique characters and plot lines, some connected directly to the games and some not. Now, I take Scott's statement is that, hey, some things are literally in the game's timelines, but some are not. Now, you may be thinking, oh, that's fine, where's the problem? The problem is that, hey, you remember the statement that it was just only 5 books? Oh, that's a big lie. We did not get 5 books. We got like basically 6+ stories, and Fazbear Frights probably would have concluded early, but concluded in 2021, so it went on for about 2 years basically. And that's a long time, and that's a long time reading books to get an understanding on the Freddy Fazbear lore, in my honest opinion. It's also worth mentioning that because there's 11 books, it's gonna cost a good amount of money if you're hell-bent on understanding the FNaF lore. So yeah, have fun spending a crap ton of money. Cha-ching. And we have Andrew. Andrew is weird discussion to talk about, because some believe he's a parallel to Cassidy, some believe he's in the game's timeline. He's just like kind of all over the walls when it comes to discussing about what the hell's up with him, because if we believe he's in the game's timeline, right, that means he was there for the whole time in the game and we just never got to see him, unless you want to believe that Midnight Motorist was like the result of Andrew being taken or whatever, but that's just really more of a theory. So we kind of have to ignore that. And then, if you believe that Cassidy's the parallel to Andrew, or Andrew's the parallel to Cassidy, whatever the hell, well then, what the hell's going on with Cassidy? Because, admittedly, we kind of only know a little bit of Cassidy for the survival logbook, and as far as I'm aware, that's it. We know that she's probably possessing Golden Freddy. Her name's Cassidy due to the survival logbook, and yeah, that's kind of all we know about her. Sure, that could probably give her a motivation, but the fact that we have to figure out a motivation in a big-ass set of collection of books, it's a lot of money to spend to know the lore. Let's move on to Tales from the Pizzaplex real quick before I make this specifically about the books. Tales from the Pizzaplex is no doubt a step up from Fazbear Frights in just honestly every single way, but unfortunately, when it released like barely even after Fazbear Frights, like I want to say like 6-8 months, something like that, not even a year after Frights was done, which I'm surprised that didn't exhaust the community too much. I'll tell you this, it exhausted me, but I kept on going. Like, Tales from the Pizzaplex answers a lot of things, and it shows a lot of things, like the Mimic. Like, wow, the Mimic's cool. Mimic's backstory's like really messed up, and wow, it's just so sad. Scott, where's it in the games? You put his backstory in the games, right? You built up to the Mimic because apparently he's been here the whole time? Scott? Okay, yes, this is my way of transitioning to the characterizations. We're finally out of the book areas. But we need to talk about the Mimic, Gregory, and Vanessa, because those three, in my opinion, are really important when it comes to FNaF's story. Now, let's start off with the Mimic, because, oh my gosh, I have a lot to say about Mimic. I feel like the Mimic could have been utilized better and built up better in the games, because the books do a pretty good job on, utilizing him and building him up, but the games, it's just kind of really not much, unfortunately. Now, to be fair, the Ruin DLC does a pretty good job on building up the Mimic and making him this strong antagonist, the next villain of FNaF. Like, they really do a good job, but the books, you really need to read the books to understand the Mimic, and I feel like they're kind of relying on the books too much when it comes to the Mimic. That's really my only problem with the Mimic, though. It's just that he's not well utilized and just not well built up. But to be honest, I feel like Scott's gonna fix that in like future FNaF games. Now let's talk about Gregory, because I'd say he's just as important as the Mimic. We desperately need to know more about Gregory. I don't even know why Security Breach didn't take the opportunity on going into Gregory's backstory. The only recent Gregory info we got was that Gregory's hanging out with someone, likely Vanessa, in the Ruin DLC. And he was patient 46, and he somehow broke out of control of likely the glitch trap virus. It's too mysterious. It's there's barely any way we could theorize about Gregory. It's just not much about him, which really irritates me, because I feel like he could be a really great character. I guess Gregory's motivation is to kind of stop the disappearances of the kids, because in the whole 6 a.m. confrontation with Gregory and Freddy, Gregory's like, Freddy, if I leave, there will be more disappearances, which is really out of nowhere. There was definitely supposed to be some little lore bits for Gregory and Security Breach that got cut out, because now he's all of a sudden aware of disappearances of children, and now he's hell-bent on making sure there's no more disappearances. It's weird. It's not even that I hate Gregory, it's just that he's just left too vague by Scott and Steele, because all we know is that I guess he was doing some funky hacking with the animatronics as Patient 46. He somehow broke out of glitch traps or whomever's control, or hell, maybe he was never in anyone's control, he's just evil, apparently some people think. And I guess he was Cassie's best friend. He was in the Pizzaplex. He's Freddy's friend. You see what I mean? You see why I'm going up? Because I'm like trying to think as much as I can. There's like not much with Gregory, unfortunately. I think we really need him to be fleshed out more. Oh, but Vanessa has it real bad. She was built up and help wanted, special delivery, and now she's just like wasted. She's not even in the Ruin DLC. She doesn't even have a story in the Tales from the Pizza Flex books. She got nothing. Nothing to her. The only thing we see from Ruin is the Vanny graffiti, which, okay, but the Princess Quest ending's canon, so what the hell does that mean? And we see Vanessa sitting in the freaking Princess Quest ending tree, whatever you want to call it, with Gregory and Helpy, which, okay, cool, Vanessa cameo, but what about her? Literally, she is the one who was Glitchtrap's little minion. So, you think she'd be important? I'm just saying. It better make her important. I'm serious. Like, I sound salty, but it's for a damn good reason. Because they made her out to be this great character. This basically protagonist who would be trying to stop Glitchtrap, basically. Because in Skibber, she was like, oh, Gregory, I can help you in the trailers. But in the game, she's like, oh, you're spoiled, brat. Just disappears after that. And the whole retro CDs, they utilize her so well. It's so good. And you know what's messed up? The FNaF movie, Vanessa, she has more time to shine than the goddamn game version, her counterpart. What is this? Scott, Steel, whoever the hell thought this was a good idea on doing my girl dirty? Who thought of this? Who thought that they should cut her out? Who? I'm needing some more Vanessa content. She has a lot of potential. She's been fleshed out a lot. She's probably like one of the most, if not the most, fleshed out FNaF character. And I'm not about to accept the fact that her character is going to be all flushed away because Scott felt like her or whatever. No. They better utilize her more in the games, whether it's Help Wanted 2, the next mainline FNaF game. I do not care. I better see my girl again, and I better see her be super fleshed out and play a big part, because she deserves it. Look, I know that was a salty rant, but am I wrong? Okay, I'm sorry. No, actually, I'm not sorry, but let's go on to the final problem, and it's a pretty big one. The communication with FNaF games. And I specifically mean Security Breach, because Ruin was a huge step up, Help Wanted was fine, and Help Wanted to better have good, clear communication when it comes to the lore, but Security Breach had it real bad. I mean, in the whole NVIDIA Steelwool interview thing, one of the employees said, oh, hey, yeah, Scott would send us some little Security Breach stuff and tell us to make it work in the games, and we'd be like, what is it? And it was probably about the whole GGY arcade things, likely. Or maybe something else, but that doesn't matter. You see the problem? The fact that Steel had no clue what it means, even though I'm pretty sure Scott told them the whole story of FNaF. You know why that's a problem, right? Now, I know people usually brush this aside and just fully blame this on Steel, but Steel and Scott are to be both criticized when it comes to how Security Breach turned out. Steelwool for just going way too big, and Scott for just not being communicative enough, and just also just letting them go way too big, because they really shouldn't have focused on making the game humongous and just focus on the quality of the game. Quality over quantity. The whole problem with Security Breach was ambition. Now don't get me wrong, ambition's a great thing, but when you let it get too big and you just focus on making something big rather than focusing on the quality of the story and the gameplay, it's bound to be a mess, unfortunately. So, we finally made it to the conclusion. But before I head out, I'm just going to discuss a few things and try and summarize what I was talking about in the video for those who were left confused. The main problems with modern FNaF is that the books are being pumped out so fast, and you really gotta keep an eye on them when it comes to lore, to the point it can kind of be hard to catch up. Now, I'm not saying that the story is complex. What I'm saying is that it kind of takes a bit of money and patience to kind of get through the books to understand the lore. Now, there isn't a problem with putting lore in books. In fact, I think it's just a great strategy on Scott's part, but when you put a crap ton of lore in the books, it can kind of be a little bit overwhelming and can kind of seem a little bit cheap in my opinion. Now, the second problem is just not having enough character development, or just not having their backstory fleshed out enough. Just basically simple characterization being kind of ignored to leave things vague. And then my final criticism is just what was going on in Security Breach's development. It was most likely miscommunication, or just at the very most, Scott not communicating enough. It's hard to precisely pin down what was the problem with Security Breach's development, but that probably played a major part on Security Breach's development. But other than that, congratulations, you have reached the conclusion of my video. But before I leave, I just want to say this, leave everything on a positive note. I believe that as of right now, modern FNaF is heading to a good route. Security Breach unfortunately gave them a major setback, but it seems like they're doing the best they can to kind of fix that. So, you know what? Good on Scott and Steelwool. So that's up for you to figure out whether you like modern FNaF or not. In the end, it's just your opinion. And my opinion is that I feel like modern FNaF is pretty solid, but it does suffer from a few problems, just like the classic era. But I think it's just as good as the classic era, in my honest opinion. But if you're gonna criticize modern FNaF, at least make up some good points that isn't just, oh, it's all so complex, oh, Fazgoo, oh, sci-fi, because it gets real tiring to hear. This has been DJ Aiden, and I'll see y'all on the flip side.